Today I'm baking up my French bread dinner rolls. I like this recipe because it's a crunchy exterior with a very soft, tender interior. I start by laying out my ingredients. I have 72 grams of all-purpose flour, 72 grams of bread flour, 1 cup of warm water, about 100 degrees. I have pâté frimenté. We'll talk about that later. Half a teaspoon of salt and a quarter teaspoon of instant yeast. I'm going to use my mixer today, so I'm going to use my paddle and I'm going to use my bread hook. Since this is a French bread recipe, you start the day prior and make the pâté fermenté the day before. It's essentially the same recipe. It's 142 grams of all-purpose flour, 142 grams of bread flour, 3/4 teaspoon of table salt, half a teaspoon of instant yeast, and 3/4 cups plus 1 tablespoon of room temperature water. I cut it in half and I put half of it away, and then I use half for this recipe here. Once I lay my half out, I'm going to cut it in 10 pieces just like I did. Once my frimenté is at room temperature, I begin to make my bread. I put my bread flour, my all-purpose flour in, my salt, and my yeast, and I mix them together with my paddle, and then I'm going to put it on my mixer and get my pâté back out and start adding it along with my water that's 100 degrees. Put the water in, let it make a dough ball. Once it's all together, you want to take these pieces that you cut and just add them individually. I've speeded this video up for time's sakes, but I'm looking at the dough and making sure that the dough incorporates each piece before I add another piece. Once all the pieces are incorporated, I'm going to switch over to my bread hook and I'm going to let this work for about 6 minutes. While that's working, I'm going to prepare my bowl. I'm going to spray some oil on my bowl. I'm going to check the temperature of my dough. I want it to be about 76 degrees. Anywhere from 75 to 77 degrees is great. Once it reaches that temperature, it's ready for it to be proofed. And I'll take it out and put it into the bowl that I just sprayed oil into. I'm now going to cover my bowl and I'm going to let it sit until it doubles in size. After about an hour, it'll be ready to pull out of the pan, and then I'm going to stretch it with my hands. Take it out and put it on my floured cutting board. And now I'm just going to grab it and stretch it out into thirds and turn it into itself. Change direction 90 degrees each time. I'm going to stretch this bread out about 4 different times. What I'm trying to do is make the gluten stretch so it'll be nice and crispy and soft on the inside. Then I'm going to put it back in my bowl and let it rise again. I then put it on my scale, zero it out, empty the bowl, and see how much the empty bowl weighs. And I see it weighs 460 grams. So I'm going to cut these pieces into individual pieces that each weigh approximately 46 grams. I'm using a 10-inch cast iron skillet for this recipe. Now I take my dough ball in both hands and I start stretching it back into itself until I gather all the loose edges. And once I get the loose edges together, I'm going to pinch them together, just like so, until it makes almost a solid ball. And this helps stretch the gluten, and it also seals the roll to where the bottom will look real symmetrical when it's done cooking. We'll show you that later. So there's the ball. Looks pretty small now, but it's going to grow as it proofs itself when we're done doing this. I like to put one at the 12 o'clock position, and then I'm going to put the next one after I pinch it to close together into the 6 o'clock position. The next one I'll put into the center, And from that point on, I'll just go around the cast iron skillet as if it was a clock and fill up the rest of the spaces. 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock. As you can see, there's gaps between each bun. That's because as they proof, they're going to grow in size. The last one I'm going to stick in the middle, and then I'm going to cover them up and let them sit for about an hour or so until they doubled in size. During this time, I've preheated my oven to 400 degrees, and I'm going to cook them for about 35 minutes or until the internal temperature reaches 195 degrees. So uncover your buns after an hour, take a look at them. If they appear to have doubled in size and the gaps are closed, they're ready to go into the oven and bake. As soon as they're out of the oven, I like to set them on a rack, grab some butter, and brush some butter on the top of them so they'll be nice and shiny and ready to enjoy with their meal. I'll also take them out of the cast iron skillet, turn them over, and butter the bottom of it so you have the same enjoyment at the top and the bottom of the rolls. And at this point you can see the consistency of the bottom, how they're nice and closed just like the top, and that's what that pinching will do for you. And then they're ready to eat. Serve them hot and enjoy them with butter or whatever you like. I'm going to have a nice cup of soup with these tonight. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you give this recipe a try and leave me a note if you did try them and how you enjoyed them. My French bread dinner rolls. Thank you.